I've been looking at managers that are turning themselves into high-performing leaders, and I've been watching folks like that for, at this point, Samuel, for decades. I've been thinking about this for more than 25 years now. What turns a manager into a high-performing leader? And I think it's a simple model. It's not easy to execute on, but
Mm.
as you and I get into it, we're going to talk about these four leadership necessities that set high-performing leaders apart from underperforming managers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Proverbial Podcast. It is your host again, Samuel Oladiji, and here I have with me is Dr. Andy. And today is going to be talking to us about the four necessities in leadership. And if you're the leader who's out there and you've been wondering, how can I be a better leader? What is the missing codes in leadership? How can I improve my leadership skills? Or maybe you've been experiencing some results in your organization, in your team, and you're finding it hard to figure out what is going on. Well, Dr. Andy today is going to share us a lot of his experience, years of experience in leadership, and is going to compart that to you in this episode. And you're going to learn all there is on how to be a great leader and how to solve that problem that it is that you're probably facing. So again, welcome to the Provider Mind podcast, and it's your host again, Samuel Oladeji, and here with me again is Dr. Andy. So if you are here for the first time, do not forget to subscribe, to like our videos, and hit the notification button so that you can be notified whenever we post any new content. Again, you can visit our inaugural video at YouTube. We are Proverbial Minds. That's how you find us. And then you can look into our videos there. There you'll find more information. We are the Proverbial Minds, and the theme of our podcast is the Proverbs of Leadership and Success. We are building a community of great leaders and successful individuals. So if you're at that point in life where you're figuring out life, you're trying to find where you stand, you're trying to discover your purpose, your calling, or where you belong in the tapestry of this world, you are in the right place, and we are here to hold your hands through the journey. So visit our inaugural video to get more information on what to expect. And we have also posted series of videos about qualities of leadership, about emotional intelligence, about mindset, numerous amount of them. You can check all that out on our YouTube channel. And now we are going to get into it. So, Dr. Andy, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing well, Samuel. I've been looking forward to our conversation together. When you and I had the chance to visit a few weeks ago,
Yes.
I could just tell I'm talking to somebody that's channeling some of the same things that I'm deeply convicted about. So I'm looking forward to our good conversation.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And when you reached out and we connected, I could tell that, okay, we definitely indeed share the same values and the same principles. And
Yep.
it's a joy to be with you since you are much more ahead in the journey of life. And you probably have had a lot of experience and load to share to upcoming guys like us. So let's get into it. Would you give us a brief experience or a brief introduction about yourself and what you're doing currently? Yeah.
You bet. You bet. So the Neillie Leadership Group is a consulting and training organization. It's a small organization. There's just three of us. I do some keynotes, but mainly I do workshops and coaching and executive coaching. You alluded a couple of minutes ago to the four leadership necessities.
Yes.
Over the years of working with individuals and organizations, for-profit firms, Fortune 500s, NGOs, small and medium businesses, privately held companies, I've been looking at managers that are turning themselves into high-performing leaders, and I've been watching folks like that for, at this point, Samuel, for decades. I've been thinking about this for more than 25 years now. What turns a manager into a high-performing leader? And I think it's a simple model. It's not
Yeah.
easy to execute on, but
Mm.
as you and I get into it, we're going to talk about these four leadership necessities that set high-performing leaders apart from underperforming managers.
That's awesome. As you can hear, Dr. Neillie, as Dr. Andy has shared, today is bringing us 25 years of experience in dealing with multiple amount of companies, small and medium-sized businesses, including Fortune 500, and I can tell that he has a lot to share with us today. So let's go into the first point. Now, you shared with me the 4 points in the four ingredients of what necessities of what make great leadership.
Yeah.
Now, I want us to look into the conviction aspect. That was the number one point you
Yeah. Number
shared.
one. Yeah. Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
it
So
about this conviction?
I've got this simple model: conviction,
Mhm.
competence, character, and covenant. Conviction is really, I tried to make them all easy and memorable. It was me recognizing that one of the things that moves a manager from simply managing into becoming a high performing leader is they see the bigger picture. They're developing a strategic perspective. They see longer term. They've got their eyes up. They're becoming a person of conviction. They're not just doing their job. They're not just leading their team. They understand the why behind the what, and
They
they're
do.
they're growing in their ability to see the bigger dynamics. So for some emerging high performing leaders, that means they're no longer just looking inside their own organization, but they're looking to the competitive landscape. They're looking to client and customer developments, the broader economic trends. They're looking internationally, some as well as locally and nationally. They see the bigger picture. They are people of conviction. They see more than simply a frontline manager.
That's powerful. That brings me back to visionary. That is visionary leadership right there.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
ability to see into the future. They
right.
usually say this thing: before you to know what the future brings, you can find the answer in the past. Cycles and trends, all this repeat itself. So your ability to develop a vision of what you want the future to look at, what you want the future to look like, is very, very important. And I definitely agree with that conviction.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's in their landmark study on leadership, the Wiley Group published a book called The Work of Leaders,
Mm,
and they used the term strategy when they were looking at this element of what made a good
mm,
leader, that ability to see the bigger picture, to have a strategic mindset, to be visionary. You know, you and I talked, Samuel. I really own two businesses. I
mm,
have the Neillie Leadership Group that
mm,
I've had for many, many years. And then as a side business that's grown to become a $5 million business, my wife and I own a number of swim schools. We're part of the Aquatots Swim School Network. And Samuel, if you'd told me 15 years ago when I partnered with a good friend of mine who was the founder of it, when he asked my wife and me to expand it into Texas where we live,
mm,
if you told me 15 years ago I would have had passion around childhood drowning, I would have said, well, I mean, I like my friend Ron and I like the idea of this and it looks like a good business.
mhm.
Samuel, last year, our 5 swim schools here in Central Texas did 207,000 swim lessons. The
Wow.
team members that worked underneath us at our 5 locations. And I become a passionate advocate for getting your children safe in and around the water. Texas, unfortunately, is like California and Florida with lots and lots of water. And Texas competes with those other 2 states for the worst award anybody would ever want to win year in and year out on how many little kids lose their lives in and around water. This has become a passion of mine now. I have a vision for saving kids' lives. So new to me 15 years ago, at this point, it's a core conviction of mine
Mhm.
that that little kids need to learn to swim. So I think in fact that leads to an interesting point because Samuel, this whole area of conviction, vision, passion, strategy that we're talking about right now, you know, some people are just passionate people. I've got a couple of friends where they just, you know, you walk in the room and the lights get brighter when they
Yep.
walk in
Yeah.
and energy is created. I'm not one of those people, but passion has grown inside me. And I think one of the things I'd say by way of encouragement to some of your listeners is passion grows when you invest yourself in something, when you fully put your hand to the plow, talking about proverbial wisdom. You and I have shared some of our favorite verses from the book of Proverbs, there
Yes.
is a truth to putting your hand to the plow and not looking back. When you get engaged and involved,
Mm-hmm.
passion emerges, that vision for making the world a better place, the strategy, conviction, vision, whatever language we use. There are some people that I think are naturally wired to be people of conviction, but I will tell you, someone who is typically more level-headed and stable, I've gotten pretty passionate about something because I've gotten invested in it.
Consistency right there.
Yeah,
Commitment and consistency.
yeah,
That
exactly.
is the goal.
Yep, yep,
That is a secret code behind that. That's
yeah.
amazing. So next you talked about competence.
Competence, yeah. And again,
How
I was
does
trying to
competence?
find 4 words that were easy to remember because they all start with C.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that good managers recognize is my job now is to allow my team members to execute. I've got to create a context where their competence can come to the forefront. It is less about me and more about my team excelling. I've worked a lot over the years, Samuel, with sales organizations and sales managers. And quite honestly, one of the challenge for sales members, sales professionals who are elevated to sales manager position is kind of the archetypical salesperson's personality is I'm going to win. I'm going to
Yep.
close the biggest deal. I'm going to get the most commission. I'm going to be at the top of the leaderboard. And one of the things an effective sales manager needs to learn as you're leading your team is now it is no longer about you. Your
Yes.
job is to make your people more competent. How are you helping them to execute? And so are you setting them up for success? Are you giving them the tools they need? Are you creating a compensation structure that motivates them? Are you managing projects in such a way that they've got a clear path for performance? How are you being a manager that brings out the best execution and competence in your team members?
That is a great point in the sense that great leadership and true leadership is your ability to transform the life of people such that even when you are not there, the legacy can keep going and the
Excellent.
business can keep striving.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. In fact, it's a wonderful, scary thing for somebody who's becoming one of these high performing leaders you and I are talking about to realize they're not needed. They've
Yeah,
done such a good job that if they don't show up,
things can
things
go
keep
on.
running.
Yep.
For some people, that's a little scary because they want to feel like they're always the most important person. Man, the model of servant leadership is that other person is more important than
Right
I
there.
am. What can I do to enable them to execute and become all that they can be? When I talk about leadership competence, that's what I'm talking about.
That is powerful. And it reminds me of the book of Second Kings in the Bible. Recently, I was doing some study on the book of the kings of Israel that existed in the past. And I
Uh-huh.
noticed one thing. Everybody has a time that they can rule. And as time goes on, your tenure will be over and someone else got to go in. So nobody lasts on the throne forever. And then the question is, what will you be known for when you're gone? What will you
Yeah.
be known for when you're no longer there? And
Yeah.
so that is what matters. You can never be there forever.
Right.
It's life change agent. The Bible says, as long as the sun rises and it sets and the moon shows and it goes up, the law of seed time and harvest continues, which
Yeah.
means there's always time and season. There's always time. So every king has his own time to reign. Every empire has its own time to reign. You're looking at the Roman Empire, all of this empire, they came, and after some time, they left. But what will you be known for? Then
Yeah.
that competence area is how do you develop your people to be able to carry on the legacy when you're
That's
done?
right. That's exactly right. When you're not there, when your time is over, do they still have what they need to carry on your legacy and continue to push forward? What a great reminder. You think about Second Kings. You also think about the cycles in the book of Judges
Mhm,
where the good judges that brought the people back to a strong faith in God
mhm.
set them up for the next generation until they forgot again. And then they, as you know, this book of
The cycle
Judges is
continue.
really cyclical of getting on the horse and then getting off the horse, getting on the horse and getting off the horse. The best leaders recognize it's not about me.
Yes.
My job is to make my people competent. How can I set them up for success? I
That's
think this is part of why, when you and I were talking prior to this, I get pretty passionate about this because we live in an era of celebrity influencers. And if I
yeah.
can amass 1 million followers on social media that'll follow my fashion trends or my baking prowess or anything to make me famous, celebrity and leadership are two separate
Oh,
things.
for sure.
The best,
Yeah.
the best leaders, their job is to let their people excel.
Yes. And that is where the fulfillment actually comes. When you know that you're able to make someone else better, there is nothing that feels more fulfilling than that.
Yeah.
Not the pride, not the validations you get from society, but the fact that you're able to serve and
Yeah.
transform lives.
Yeah. Well, and that leads to the third leadership necessity, just naturally blends in, and that's that
Character.
character element. And this is where I think you and I
Mm,
particularly connected because of your orientation to biblical truth
mm,
and that proverbial leadership wisdom. The adage is true, you'll never be a better leader than you are a person. And
yes.
fair-minded and honest and other-oriented and humble and giving credit and owning responsibility, all of these character traits that um, that are that are missing at times in our social media driven world of spontaneous celebrityship. Stephen Covey said it a number of years ago now. People join organizations because of the job, but they leave because of their boss.
Mm,
And the reason they leave most of the time is because of that
character.
person who makes it too much about himself or herself.
I feel like, and even as you describe the world of celebrity and the validation that we get from the old celebrity and attention from the world, is easy to get derailed from the fact
Oh,
that it is not about me. It's about the people I serve. Because nobody, and like you said before, it is scary for some people and even everybody at times to feel like, so one day I'm going to be totally irrelevant and no one cares about me anymore. And so many times we always try to fight it, but then the reality is you just can't. Nobody has ever won that war. There's gonna be time where you become obsolete, and is what you did that then will begin to speak for you. And how
yeah,
did you act when you were there?
yeah,
How did you treat people when you were there? The character.
yeah. Were people better for the time they spent with you or not? Right. That's really the measure of your leadership. And it's such a challenge in our current environment because Samuel, I am wishing you the best of luck. I hope
Yeah.
Proverbial Minds becomes a top 5% podcast on Apple Podcasts. I want you to be successful, and you will have the challenge of not letting success go to your head.
Yeah.
And how
Yeah.
do I recognize it's the message, not the man?
Yeah.
It's the content, not the celebrity that makes the difference. That's the balance. I mean, the name of my firm is Neillie Leadership Group. My very name is in it. It sounds like I'm pushing myself
Mm,
forward. No, it's just that I'm recognized because I've got 25 years and 5 million frequent flyer miles from doing this stuff
mm.
all over the world. But my hope is the people that really get it, they come away better as human beings, which makes them better leaders. That's the point.
Yes. Yes. Now that moves us into covenant.
Covenant, interesting word. And I'll tell you, Samuel, I wrestled. I'm a good observer. I try
Mhm.
to watch the 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 leaders that are leading well. What am I seeing? And hence this simple model, the 4 leadership necessities. They're not doing 20 things, they're not doing 30 things. They're doing 4 things. They're doing 4 things well. Simple, but not easy. And the final one, man, I called it communication, I called it consistency. I wanted to find a C word so it would be easy to remember.
Yeah.
And then I stumbled upon it about 3 years ago, and I realized this is what it is. The managers that are becoming high performing leaders, they recognize they're in covenant with their team members. And let me explain that a little bit more, because
Mhm.
covenant is kind of an old-fashioned word. Guy Ritchie put out a very good movie, a typical Guy Ritchie, kind of a brutal movie, but a very good movie, probably 3 or 4 years ago now, called Covenant. And so it brought that word back into our common
Mhm.
language a little bit. But here in the state of Texas, the best example for me is if you have a couple that wants to get married, obviously they love and affection for better and for worse till death do
Yep.
us part, and richness,
It's a
uh,
covenant.
and health and sickness. And so there's that romantic side. There is a
Hmm.
personal side of the marriage covenant also in the state of Texas, and I would assume that this is probably true in Minnesota as
Sure.
well,
Yeah.
and in many states here in the U.S. and many other countries, I would assume. This marriage covenant, there's also a form that is signed by an officiant and submitted to the Secretary of State here in Texas.
Mhm.
There's both a personal side and a formal side to the idea of covenant. And when I realized that's what I'm seeing, these high performing leaders I was working with, they had vision. They were people of conviction. They knew what the company's outcomes needed to be. They drove their people to perform. There was a formal side, project management and sales quotas and operational excellence and financial acumen, the business side of things. Oh, and then Andy had a family member that was struggling with cancer, and Andy needed 3 weeks of PTO instead of 2 weeks. And yeah, it went outside of the HR policy, but it was the right thing to do for Andy and his
Mhm.
family. And so that leader made it happen. And there was both the formal side, but also this personal side of putting your people first. And I realized,
Mm.
boy, that's what good leaders do. They recognize they're not just under a contract with their employees, they're in covenant with their employees. That relationship
That gives me a deep
over profit.
understanding now.
Yeah, yeah. So I finally found the word to describe what I was observing. The best leaders, their people know that he's got my back.
Yeah.
She's there for me. They will understand. And there's a tension here, particularly I think, Samuel, in today's environment. How do you balance that formal responsibility? Hey, if I'm in a position of leadership, I have a P&L I'm responsible to. I have a project that's on deadline. I've got expectations for my shareholders or for my boss or whoever. How do I balance that with letting my people know they're in a safe place? I will do my best to take care of them. That's a that's one of those dynamic tensions that I'm not sure you ever get perfectly right.
No.
But here's what I do know. If you're wrestling with how do you do that well, you're thinking like a leader and not just a manager.
Yes. It's about the personal connection. It's about how do you treat the people? How do you make them feel? And how do
Yeah.
you stay consistent to doing the right thing? And in the world of today, we have most times put profit over the people. We have
Yeah.
put the numbers over the people. And then we have forgotten that without those people, we can't even make the profit in the first place.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
it's
and I think we can fall off of either side, right? That
Mhm.
hard driven, it's all about the profit and we've got to make the numbers. And as you said, I think there's more pressure today perhaps than ever because there's so much scrutiny, right? And people
Yep.
are looking at financial reports and
Hmm.
and what's showing up on the news. I think equally guilty on the other side are the leaders that won't make hard decisions because
Yes.
they don't have the heart to. Well,
Yes.
no. Part of your job as a leader is if somebody needs to go,
Let them
you're the
go.
one that needs to have the hard conversation. In fact, I will say there's an easy identifier difference between managers and leaders. Managers get the easy conversations, leaders get the hard conversations.
Yes.
And at times that means you've got to be true to the organization. Either side, if you fall off too far, you're making a mistake. You've got the
Yep.
tension the dynamic tension of serving the organization while I serve my people. And whether that's a for-profit company, whether that's a small mom and pop shop, or whether that's a church or a nonprofit organization, the organization needs to be served and the people need to be served. That's a balancing act that good leaders wrestle with regularly.
And that is true because sometimes it might be hard to keep track. Some
Yeah,
people are probably towards the other side, which is caring too much that they don't know how to make the hard decisions and they just rather let the company go down and screw every other person's up. And some people, they are so strict that they don't even care about the people at all. And it's all about the number. And so
yeah,
it's finding that balance in
yeah,
between.
yeah,
That's where that covenant comes in
yeah.
perfectly.
I
That's
remember one of my graduate school professors years and years and years ago talking about the idea of dynamic tension. He said, Andy, imagine you have a bowl and imagine you have a marble. Static equilibrium is you just put the marble in the bottom of the bowl and it rolls around, but eventually it stops. What you and I are talking about right now, Samuel, is the bowl's been turned upside down and the marble's on top, and you never
yeah,
quite get it exactly right.
yeah.
Was I too easy on the issue? Was I too hard on the person? Was I too easy on the person? Was I too hard on the issue? Leaders should have to wrestle with that regularly. Did I let that person get away with too much? Or did I push too hard and squelch the spirit of my people? I think there's a tension there that's a leadership tension. I'm not sure it ever goes away. I know you and I've talked a little bit about
Mm.
this, the drive for performance,
Mm-hmm.
grades, profits, shareholder return. And then I think of the crying CEO on LinkedIn a couple of years ago who had to lay people off, and he went on social media in tears about it. No, that's part of your job. If you're trying to save the company, you've got to make the hard decisions. There's a tension there. If you go too far one way or the other, you're out of balance.
It's it's
Covenant is hard
it's
to execute.
it's true. It's true. I mean, even being like some leaders in some the leader in some other little group in my school and other places that I have to officiate in, I can tell because every time you're asking yourself, did I did what is right? Was I
Yeah,
too hard? And so that which you're sharing is a true struggle, and I don't think it ever goes away. I
yeah,
think you just got to figure it out one day or the
yeah.
other.
Yeah. Well, and I think all four of these leadership necessities, if you and I want to be growing as leaders, we're having to push the envelope on all of them. How are we balancing our passion, our strategy, our
Yeah.
conviction? How are we helping our people be more competent and execute at their responsibilities better? How are we making ourselves better people? The first job of a leader is always to lead themselves well. And
Yes.
then how are we balancing this tension of formal versus personal, the idea of covenant? That's why I think it's a simple framework, the four leadership necessities.
Yes.
Simple does not mean easy. I
Oh
think
yeah.
all of us who aspire to be high performing leaders, this is a lifetime of work.
It doesn't get better overnight. It's a
So that,
marathon, not a sprint.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right, guys, that is it for you. The four necessities in leadership from Dr. Andy. Dr. Andy, thank you so much for
My
coming
pleasure.
to Rub Your Minds today and sharing this powerful ingredient of leadership success with our audience. So, to recap what we talked about, the first one was conviction. The second one was competence. Third one was character. And then the fourth one, the most powerful of all, is covenant. So
Yeah,
ensure that you note that down and understand the meaning of them all. And cross
yeah.
check that with your life and your leadership skills. And then make that balance, make that decision to embark on that journey of transformation to become that great leader. And Proverbial Minds will always be here to hold your hands through the journey. Dr. Andy, do you still have any extra thing to share for us today? What's your final word about being a great and successful leader?
Well, I'm so honored to be on your podcast. I know you guys are going to have great success with this, Samuel. Should anybody want to follow up with me, Neillie Leadership, Neillie, neillieleadership.com is my website, and they can connect. I've got a link there to my calendar. We can grab 15 minutes on the phone. So should anybody want to follow up, and I just look forward to hearing great things about Proverbial Minds as your podcast grows. Thank you.
Sounds great. Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Andy. So that is it for today, guys. Make sure to subscribe and like and click notification button and give us feedback on the comment section of our YouTube channel. And follow us on Instagram too. Find us at Proverbial Minds on Instagram. We have a lot of shorts that we post there, and that can be useful for you for your daily activity. If you're just feeling one way or the other, or you're feeling something, or you're lost, or just need a little bit something to uplift your mood and to maybe give you answers, go to Instagram. You have a lot of shorts there to get you by. And also, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're maybe driving down the highway or just maybe doing some chores or whatever it is, you can kick us in and start listening and getting blessed with a lot of wisdom and information that the Lord has given us the grace to bring before you. And again, if you're here for the first time, visit our inaugural video on YouTube and to learn what we are about in the Proverbial Minds community. And if you're a returning viewer and you're not subscribed yet, I don't know what you're waiting for, but please click the subscribe button. We want to transform the life of people. Over 1 million people is our goal, and we can't do that without you. So when you subscribe and you like the video and click the notification button and comment, you let people know. You let the YouTube algorithm, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify algorithm know that you like what we are doing. And that way, they share it with more people. And also, you yourself can engage in the journey of transforming lives, which is a great purpose of living. So let's together change the lives of people out there. And again, if you have any questions or testimonial or anything at all official, reach out to us at proverbialminds@gmail.com. And until the next one, guys, peace out and stay blessed.